Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala syarafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, in the previous video we have discussed about the differences in inherent human potential, tendencies and behavior, and how I give you example of alcoholism as a problem of modern society, how for example, certain societies are being destroyed because of alcoholism and drug addiction. So I'm going to give you two more paragraphs in terms of what are the responsibility of the society in facing this kind of challenges, because we're going to face a lot more challenges in terms of addiction. We have addiction to pornography, we have addiction to video games, we have addiction to food, obesity, we have addiction to sex, we have to addiction in so many things. Extreme sports also, there are people who go into extreme sports because of addicted to it. So how are we going to tackle this problem of modern days addiction by using alcoholism as an example? Alright, I'm going to read to you some one or two more paragraphs here. The importance of that societal insight was that it took the blame away from alcoholic. If you take away the responsibility, you also take the free will. Every person who is an alcoholic must be given the responsibility for their condition so that they can exercise their free will to escape from the influence of alcohol. It is important also to accept responsibility, because that which we do not have responsibility, we would hardly be expected to overcome it. So if we do not take cognizance of our own responsibility to overcome our own addiction, then this situation cannot be resolved. No society owns some large part of that responsibility. Society powerfully conditioned the belief that drinking alcohol is desirable. So the fault lies with the individual and the society. How are they groomed within that society? Because society powerfully conditions the belief that drinking alcohol is desirable. So through the mass media, through the films, melodrama, they will have a sip of wine, or they just have a big jug of beer, and it becomes desirable as part and parcel of, for example, youth, as part and parcel of high-class society, as part and parcel of generally having fun. So you go for the booze, then you do things that are abnormal in a sense, all right, when you're drunk, and so also that becomes a conditioning mechanism of how society encourage alcoholism in many societies of the world. Society powerfully conditions the belief that drinking alcohol is desirable. Society creates the role of the alcoholic, just as society creates the role of mentally ill, the role of the criminal, the role of the homosexual, and the role of so many other societal problems that we face in the 21st century of this free-for-all, hedonistic-based, material, secular, materialistic, mechanical life that we are facing in the 21st century. As we said earlier, when referring to the responsibility of society, that responsibility truly belongs to the people. The term society is just a convenient way to refer to the combined influence of all humanity. So, for example, if there are a lot of alcoholics in Russia, the onus is on the Russian people as a whole, how they view alcoholism, whether in a positive or negative light, and how they are groomed. So for example, now we have in Russia, the population is decreasing because more and more people are becoming alcoholics, more and more people are dying because of liver failure, because of addiction, and the Russian population, indigenous Russian population, is decreasing, just like the indigenous Australian population is decreasing. And in many other societies in Latin America, this is also the problem. So we are seeing the effect of alcoholism, in which the society is fully responsible, because society means the consciousness of all the people in that society, whether it's in El Salvador, whether it is in Venezuela, in Russia, in Australia, in North America, native North America, anywhere in the world where we are facing massive problem of addiction to alcohol, which is so chronic that it is destroying society, it is destroying the youth generation, and it is destroying the whole viability of that civilization to continue. It should never be considered as some abstract concept because it serves no purpose to assign responsibility to an abstract concept. So when we talk about addiction, it's not an abstract concept, it's a reality of the society at that point of time, whether now or in the future. The past is gone, okay? So we are talking about the now, we are talking about the future. Only human beings can be made to accept responsibility. We each have responsibility both as individuals, as member of the various social groups that make up the human race. Indeed, every person on this planet shares responsibility for every problem that exists in human society. So we cannot blame the Russian, we cannot blame the North American, we cannot blame the El Salvadorian, we cannot blame anybody. We have to blame our 21st century civilization. Who are the players in this 21st century civilization? We are here in this world, in this time. So we are the people responsible for all the ills, whether it is addiction, drug addiction, alcoholism, pornography, or whatever that you are facing today, including psychological problem of anxiety, psychosis, depression, bipolar. So many of these problems you are facing getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And these are all our problem as a human race. Every person has some degree of influence in which diffuses through the world. Usually the influence is minor for any particular individual, but some individuals have an influence which can bring major changes to the whole human society. Whether the influence of any individual is great or small, the responsibility held by every individual is great. It is the responsibility of each person to be an active, positive influencer. The billions of small positive influences which should naturally arise from the human population can then bring about a new utopian future. Okay, so this is just an example of how we view from the perspective of positive Islamic psychology. We see the problem, addiction. We see the problem, say alcoholic addiction. We see the solution, and then we see the collective responsibility of the whole human society. But at least we have 1.7 billion Muslims. We see the collective responsibility of Muslims in Muslim societies to overcome the challenge, because we have also addiction to alcohol in Muslim societies, even though it is haram in Islam, but you have a lot of addiction problem in Muslim countries, all right, where addiction to alcohol is quite normal because alcohol is available, especially if Muslims are living in the West. They are living Western materialistic, secular lifestyle. To them, drinking alcohol is part and parcel of growing up. So they will have that problem. So for example, in England, we have a lot of young Muslims now trying to give up addiction to alcohol. All right? So the mosques are facing a lot of problems, the community is facing a lot of problems, but because the external influence, okay, of the way of life of the British people is not conducive for Muslims to have, for example, an alcohol-free lifestyle. It is part and parcel of that society. So it is a great challenge, all right, for Muslims in Western countries. There are also Muslims in Muslim countries, for example, even in countries such as Pakistan, all right, they have addiction problem to alcohol because alcohol is bootleg, or in Turkey, or in Indonesia, or many other countries. So it is very important that I'm just using addiction to alcohol as one example. There are many forms of addiction. So if we are going to tackle this, we must tackle this collectively as an ummah, collectively as a human society. What are the best way, gentle, good, useful way of changing society so that we have less problem of alcohol addiction and more of the joy, the happiness, the fulfillment of a meaningful, useful, addiction-free life. That is what we want for every young child who is growing up in this 21st century, every millennial, every person on this earth, starting with ourselves, changing our families, changing our local societies, changing the ummah, and changing the world towards being the Caliph of Allah, inshallah. Striving always to make ourselves good, helping others to be good, making the world good, inshallah.